Talent is a myth. Learning to play the guitar is a physical skill that you can learn, obtain, and train. And the reason that you feel like you can't do it is simply because you have been given the wrong instruction. But today we're gonna get your first win. And for that we're going to follow a 5-step blueprint that I call the 5 victories. So the first victory and the first step in the plan is going to be all about getting the perfect sound on your guitar. Because a huge mistake that I often see beginner guitar players make is to fall into the death grip. And this refers to the feeling that you need insane finger strength to get the perfect sound out of your instrument. You don't. You need precision. Like, I don't go to the gym in order to play the guitar. I literally just focus on precision. So here's your first mission. We're not gonna play a song. We're not even gonna play a chord. We're just gonna make one single perfect sound. I want you to take your index finger and place it right behind the middle bar, so the first fret of the thinnest string on your guitar. So that's going to be the high E string. Then use the fingertip of that finger to press down and then play the string like this. You should have a perfect sounding note because you're not playing right on top of the fret and also not too far in front of the fret, but right in front. So this is your first victory and the most important one, because this is the starting block and the most fundamental thing of playing the guitar. But yeah, a single note is not a song. You actually need more than that. So this leads me to the next breakthrough that will change everything for you. And this is going to be the wonderful world of chords. But for beginner guitar players, chords might look like an impossible game of finger twister, because you have to put certain fingers on certain places and it can be just very overwhelming from the start. And on top of that, a lot of guitar tutorials will just throw a chord diagram at your face and just say, good luck. And this is also why a lot of people quit playing the guitar. So for your second victory, I'm going to teach you how to play perfect sounding chords every single time. And we're going to do that by implementing something that I call the chord detective method. First of all, we're going to learn our first chord, and this is going to be the easiest, most rewarding chord on the guitar, the E minor. You're going to put your middle finger on the second fret of the A string, and then your ring finger on the second fret of the D string. And the other strings are open, and open strings are strings where you don't press any frets at all. Now you're going to do a downstroke. This is going to be your first chord on the guitar. And remember to put your middle finger and ring finger right in front of the metal bar, like I told you in step number 1. But we're not done yet, because it's all fun and games when a chord sounds good. But when a chord sounds bad like this, it can cause a lot of frustration for beginner guitar players. So we're going to play the strings one by one and then analyze where the flaw lies. So there are 2 places where the chord sounds wrong. First one is over here. It's buzzy, and you can already see that I'm not holding my fingers right in front of the fret. If I shift it like this, it will sound good. The second mistake is over here. When I play the string, I can feel my ring finger, and that's not supposed to happen because my ring finger is on the string above it. So then I simply just put my wrist a little bit more forwards, thus creating more space. And now the string can ring out freely. So this is your second victory. You can now play perfect sounding chords each and every time, because this method works for every chord that you learn on the guitar. Okay, so the third step and the third victory that will get you up and running as a beginner guitar player is all going to be about the switch. Because those annoying stops in between can really kill your flow and motivation. But let me teach you how to beat this once for all. And we're going to do that by implementing a technique that I call the air traffic control. And it will become very clear in a second why I called it that. We're going to practice a seamless transition from the E minor to the G major. For the G major, we're going to put our middle finger on the third fret of the low E string, the index finger on the second fret of the A string, your ring finger on the third fret of the B string, and then your pinky finger on the third fret of the high E string. Now we're going to apply the technique. So we're going to form an E minor. Then your fingers are going to go up in the air, very slowly in the air. You're going to form the G major chord. And then you're going to land the plane, your fingers, into the G major chord like that. Then your fingers are going to go up again. You know, the plane is in the air. And then you're going to land on E minor again. So you're going to practice the switch quite a few times until you can kind of ingrain the shape of the chords into your muscle memory. And that is what we're after. And I know this is boring because you're not really making any music, but it's really effective because you're literally building the pathway in your brain between these 2 chords, and this will definitely serve you in the long run, trust me. And you're building this muscle memory without the pressure of sounding good, because you're not even playing the chords. Once the switching feels comfortable and in one rhythm, simply just add the strumming by doing one downstroke with your thumb on E minor and then on G major. And you'll see that it becomes so much easier when you do it like this than just, you know, flat out trying it. This is your third victory because now you can switch between the chords, the perfect sounding chords with the perfect sounding notes seamlessly. For victory number 4, we're gonna focus on the heartbeat of your playing, aka your rhythm. Because right now your strumming might sound very stiff and robotic like this. And that's because you're pushing the strings, and we need to make the transition from pushing to falling. This is something that I call the pendulum principle. For this step, I want you to mute the strings of your guitar with your fretting hand like this. Because we're not playing notes like we did before, but we're making rhythm. The next step to a perfect sounding strum in your guitar is to give all the strings the same amount of love. And let me tell you what I mean by that. You're not gonna hit the low E string very hard and then the rest just like medium. No, you're gonna give the same amount of pressure to all the strings. I'm gently letting my wrist fall into the strings like that. So this is your downstroke. When you do a downstroke, make sure to bend off a little bit at the end. So when you do an upstroke, you can make a curved movement like this. I always visualize my strumming as the capital letter D because you go down like this, and then with the bow you go up. Now I want you to relax your strumming hand completely and just let your wrist fall over the strings like this. It should just feel like gravity. You're literally draping your wrist over the strings like this. And then the upstroke should feel like a bounce back from that fall. So just imagine that it's a pendulum. And also when you do the upstroke, make sure to give all the strings the same amount of love. So don't push, but let it fall and then go up like this. Trust your fall and your bounce. Once this becomes automatic, you have found your heartbeat on the guitar, your rhythm. And this is going to be your 4th victory. And this brings me to my 5th and final victory to achieve. And this is going to be all about memorizing your first song. Because let's face it, it's much cooler to just pick up a guitar at any place and any time and just jam some songs that you know from the top of your head. Let me teach you the fastest way to memorize songs as a beginning guitar player. And we're going to do this by implementing a technique that I call the chop and glue. But first I want you to think about the last time you've memorized a phone number or a code. You don't learn all digits all in one go, but you kind of chop them up in parts, learn those parts, and then glue it together, right? We do the same exact thing with music. So imagine you have a verse that you want to get down. Try to memorize the chords of only the first line of that whole verse. So imagine it's going to be something like G major, C major, G major, D major. Now what I want you to do is you're going to take that part, that first phrase, and then you're going to loop that over and over again until it's automatic. I want you to burn it into your short-term memory, because then and only then you can move on to the next phrase out of your verse. Then learn that next phrase, so part 2. By looping the chords that are associated to that phrase over and over again until it's automatic. And so on and so on. This way you're creating a chain of small unbreakable loops, and this is the fastest way to burn something into your long-term memory as well. And then the final step is to glue these loops, these small parts together, and fully burning your first guitar song into your brain. And memorizing a song like that is going to be your 5th and final victory on the guitar. So now you're equipped with the 5-step blueprint, the 5 victories to take you from overwhelmed to empowered. So you have the tools and I have the playlist to guide you even further. So if you want to stick around and improve your skills on the guitar even more, please make sure to watch the playlist on screen. And with that being said, I hope to see you soon in the next video.